Renu Rana Ra.
On this occasion we will discuss the history of Maximilian I. Maximilian I of Habsburg, son of Frederick III, Holy Roman Emperor, and Eleanor of Portugal, was King of the Romans from 1486 and Holy Roman Emperor from 1493 until his death. She co-regent with her father for the last 10 years of his father's reign, from about 1483. She expanded the influence of the House of Habsburg through both war and marriage, but also lost the Austrian territories in present-day Switzerland to the Swiss Confederation. By marrying his son Philip to the future Queen Juana of Castile in 1498, Maximilian established the Habsburg dynasty in Spain and allowed his grandson Charles V to assume the thrones of both Leon Castile and Aragon, thereby making him the first de jure king of Spain. Outliving his father Philippe, Charles succeeded Maximilian as Holy Roman Emperor in 1519, and later ruled both the Holy Roman Empire and the Kingdom of Spain simultaneously. The son of the Habsburg Holy Roman Emperor Frederick III and Eleanor of Portugal, Maximilian was born in Wiener Neustadt on March 22, 1459. At that time, the Dukes of Burgundy, a branch of the French royal family, with their aristocratic culture and court, were held in high esteem, and the Duke of Burgundy Charles the Daredevil was the leader of the opponents of Maximilian Friedrich III's father. Frederick was concerned about Burgundy's expansive tendencies on the western frontiers of the Holy Roman Empire, which led him to attempt to secure the marriage of Charles's only daughter Marie to his son Maximilian. With this, he finally succeeded after the Siege of Neuss. The marriage between Maximilian and Marie took place on August 16, 1477. Maximilian's wife, Marie, inherited the vast Burgundian domains of France and the Lower Countries upon the death of her father at the Battle of Nancy on January 5, 1477. Prior to his coronation as King of the Romans in 1486, Maximilian decided to secure this distance and the extensive inheritance of Burgundy to his family, House of Habsburg, by all means. The Duchy of Burgundy was also claimed by the French throne under the Law of Sully, and Louis XI, King of France, contested the Habsburg claim to the Burgundian inheritance. Maximilian defended his wife's realm from attacks by Louis XI and defeated French forces at Guinnegat, in modern Nguinegat, on August 7, 1479. The marriage contract between Maximilian and Marie was stipulated that only the descendants of the bride and groom had the right as heirs, not their living parents. The tough rules were transferred and passed on by Marie with a promise to transfer them as a reward if she died later. After Marie's tragic death in a driving accident on March 27, 1482 near Wijnendale Castle, Maximilian's goal now was to secure the inheritance of his and Marie's one son, Philip I of Castile. Several Dutch provinces hated Maximilian, and they signed a treaty with Louis in 1482 forcing Maximilian to give Franche-Comté and Artois to Louis. Maximilian continued to rule over the remainder of Marie's inheritance on behalf of Philip I of Castile. After the trusteeship ended, Maximilian and Charles VIII traded the two territories for Burgundy and Picardy in the Treaty of Senlis. Eventually much of Holland became and remains the possession of the Habsburgs. Template, HRE Coat of Arms. King of the Romans elected February 16, 1486 in Frankfurt am Main on the initiative of his father and crowned April 9, 1486 in Aachen. Maximilian also stood over the Holy Roman Empire after his father's death in 1493. The Treaty of Senlis had resolved France's differences with the Holy Roman Empire. French King Louis XII secured his northern borders and turned his attention to Italy, where he claimed the Duchy of Milan. In 1499–1500 he captured it and drove the Sforza leader Lodovico il Moro into exile. This put him into potential conflict with Maximilian, who on March 16, 1494 married Bianca Maria Sforza, daughter of the Duke of Milan. However, Maximilian was unable to dissuade the French from taking over Milan. A protracted Italian war ensues, with Maximilian joining the Holy League to fight France. The situation in Italy was not Maximilian's only problem at this time. Switzerland won a decisive war against the Empire in the Battle of Dornach on July 22, 1499. Maximilian had no choice but to agree to the peace treaty signed on September 22, 1499 in Basel, guaranteeing the Swiss Confederation to be independent from the Holy Roman Empire. He is often referred to as the Last Knight. Within the Holy Roman Empire, Maximilian faced pressure from leaders who believed that the king's continued war with France to increase the power of his own court was not in their best interests. However, there was a consensus that in order to keep the empire united, major reforms were needed. The reforms, which had been postponed for some time, began in 1495 with the Reichstag in Worms. A new organ, the Reichskammergericht, was introduced, and it was largely independent of the king. To finance this, a new tax, the Gemeinpfennig, was enacted. However, the harvest was never fully successful. The regents wanted to be more independent from the king and strengthen the government in their own area. This resulted in Maximilian agreeing to set up an organ called the Reichsregiment, to be held at Nuremberg and containing the king's deputies, regents, classes and princely electors. The new organ proved relatively powerless and power returned to Maximilian again in 1502. Due to the difficult situation inside and out, Maximilian also felt the need to introduce these reforms to the areas of the Habsburg palace, in order to finance his army. Using the Burgundian institutions as an ideal body, he strove to create a unified state. This was not very successful, but one of the lasting results was the creation of 3 different divisions. This includes Upper Austria, Lower Austria, and the Vorderösterreich. In 1508, Maximilian, with the approval of Pope Julius II, assumed the title Erwalter Römischer Kaiser, ending centuries of ancient tradition that Holy Roman Emperors must be crowned by the Pope. As part of the Treaty of Arras, Maximilian betrothed his 3-year-old daughter Margaret to the Dauphin, son of his enemy Louis XI. Louis had attempted 7 years previously to arrange an arranged marriage between the Dauphin and Margaret's mother, Mary. Under the conditions of Margaret's marriage, she was sent to Louis to be raised under her guardianship. Although Louis died in 1483, shortly after Margaret arrived in France, she continued to live at the French court. The Dauphin, now Charles VIII, was still a child, and his guardian until 1491 was his sister, Anne of France. Anne's first arranged marriage, to the Duke of Lorraine, ended when the Duke called it off in order to pursue Marie of Burgundy. Although Margaret was betrothed and remained at the French court, and arranged a marriage between Charles and Anne of Brittany. Instead, she had been betrothed in 1483, and actually married by proxy in 1491, to Maximilian himself, but Charles and his sister wanted the inheritance for France. The final result of these actions was that Charles annulled his marriage to Margaret when she came of age in 1491, invaded Britannia, forced Anne to annul her marriage to Maximilian, and marry him. Margaret still remained in France until 1493, when she finally returned to her father. He remarried twice. In 1493, Maximilian made another marriage contract for himself, this time to the daughter of the Duke of Milan, either during Italy's long war with France. Thus Maximilian through his own marriage sought to increase his level of influence against the French. Arranged marriages to his children were more successful in fulfilling the same goal, and after the turn of the 16th century, he focused on the matchmaking of his grandchildren, for whom he looked to the east against France. In order to relieve the growing pressure on the empire brought on by the treaty among the leaders of France, Poland, Hungary, Bohemia, and Russia, and also to secure Bohemia and Hungary for the Habsburgs, Maximilian I met with the Jagiellon kings Vladislav II of Hungary and Bohemia and Zygmunt I of Poland at the First Congress of Vienna in 1515. There they arranged for Maximilian's granddaughter Maria to marry Louis, son of Vladislav, and Anna Jagiellonska to marry Maximilian's granddaughter Fernando. The marriages arranged there brought Habsburg kingship over Hungary and Bohemia in 1526. Both Anne and Louis were adopted by Maximilian following the death of Ladislaus. The political marriage was concluded in the following Latin elegiac couplet: Bella gerent alii, tu Felix Austrian noob/nam que Mars aliis, dat tibi regna Venus, let others fight, but thou, happy Austria, marry, for the kingdom that Mars gives to others, Venus gives it to you. After it became clear that Maximilian's policies in Italy had been unsuccessful, and after 1517 Venice reconquered the last pieces of their territory from Maximilian, the emperor now started to focus entirely on the question of his succession. His goal was to secure the throne for members of his court and prevent Francis I of France from gaining the throne, resulting in an unforeseen election campaign due to the massive use of financial means. The Fugger family provided Maximilian with a credit of 1 million guilders, which was used to bribe the prince-elector. At first, this appeared to have worked, and Maximilian was successful in securing the votes of Mainz, Cologne, Brandenburg and Bohemia for his grandson Charles V. Maximilian's death in 1519 seemed to have put the succession at risk, but within a few months Charles V's election was secured. In 1501, Maximilian fell from his horse. This accident resulted in a serious injury to his leg, which caused him pain throughout his life. Some historians have suggested that Maximilian suffered from morbid depression. From 1514, he traveled everywhere with his coffin. Maximilian died in Wels, Upper Austria, and was succeeded as emperor by his grandson Carlos V. His son Philip I of Castile died in 1506. Although he is buried in the castle chapel in Wiener Neustadt, a memorial tomb is located in Hofkirch, Innsbruck. Maximilian was an ardent admirer of the arts and sciences, and he himself surrounded scholars such as Joachim Vadian and Andreas Stoberl, promoting them to important positions at court. His reign witnessed the first fruitful revival in Germany. He commissioned a series of 3 monumental woodblock printings, the Triumphal Arch, and a triumphal procession led by the Great Victory Chariot, created by artists including Albrecht Dürer, Albrecht Altdorfer, and Hans Bergmayr. Maximilian appointed his daughter Margaret as both Regent of Holland and guardian and tutor of his grandsons Charles and Fernando, and he fulfilled this task well. Through wars and marriages he increased Habsburg influence in all directions, to Holland, Spain, Bohemia, Hungary, Poland, and Italy. This influence would last through the centuries and deepen much of European history. Thank you for following our videos. Don't forget to share, like and subscribe so you can always follow video updates from us.